Hi, this is Joseph.
This is David, and welcome to The Definition.
A podcast where we take a topic and explore various perspectives.
Because not everything is black and white.
Exploring the depths beyond the definition, hearing opinions from the street, as well as offer our own 2 cents. Ultimately, our goal is to spark your intrigue.
Be rest assured, it's always going to be real, relatable, and relaxed. You can also expect us to spice up each episode with a hint of our personal experiences.
Let's get started.
I'm happy with that.
So welcome to The Definition.
Yes.
We're here again this week.
Yep.
And this week we decided not to shy away from a topical conversation which is steeped in controversy, but we are not doing it for that reason. But we think there's merit to discussing stuff that people are spending their time thinking about, discussing themselves. So today we're going to talk about, specifically to Ireland, the current housing crisis.
Yep.
And sharing some aspects around that are a reality for different individuals.
Absolutely.
Coming at it from different angles, because we know that not everything's black and white.
Absolutely. But I think before we go into it, Dave he's just coming from an interesting holiday. How was your holiday, Dave?
Holiday was great. 32 degrees.
Oh my.
Beaches,
Oh my.
sunshine, water slides, barbecue lamb every night.
Oh my God.
I'm a happy man, and my belly is taking a hit.
And now you're back to grey, beautiful, evergreen Ireland.
Absolutely. Which reinforces the fact that if you get a chance to get away once or twice a year,
Get away. Fantastic. And back to today's topic. So I think a good place to start is housing as a fundamental necessity for life. It's not a luxury to have a roof over your head. And as you would agree with me, it's the foundation of building quality life for yourself or your family, that you have a place to set your head when the sun sets. So we want to look at housing, the current reality in Ireland, not as an investment, not like those who are into the property or real estate business, but those who are seeking a home for themselves as an essential necessity, like food, like clothing for living. And Ireland is in a very peculiar situation right now. It's a blessing and a curse with all the economic boom and all the influx of skilled labor into the small island called Ireland. And on the back end of it, a slower rate of construction. Then there's so-called a deficit of housing that has been there for a while now, and it's probably going to be there in the foreseeable future if drastic actions are not taken. Be that as it may, it has now trickled down to become a challenging topic for every either young family in Ireland or those who are in their mid-40s, still under their parents' roof, and just cannot get into that first housing market. So that's the summary, that's the reality. Today we want to dissect it from a cultural point of view or social point of view, without passing judgment on anyone, but really just look at it because not everything about the housing situation in Ireland is black and white.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And like in some cultures, renting is a much more accepted form. I know I lived in Germany for a couple of years, and in Germany, a much bigger population demographic rent and are happy to rent. The problem with rent in Ireland is it's extortionate.
Absolutely.
So like,
Absolutely.
You can't really live a quality life if 80% of your good salary
is going into rent.
Yeah.
And
as overheated and overcooked as the housing to buy market is, your mortgage repayments, even in that crazy market, will be significantly lower than an equivalent property rented.
Absolutely.
So in anyone's mind, longer term, if it's possible to get on the housing market, it's a better financial move as opposed to renting. The problem is a lot of people are stuck.
Absolutely. And one of the other elements about why the purchase market is interesting is just because of your reduced running costs when you purchase a new house versus if you're renting a house that is 50, 60 years old. Take, for example, the element around heating. In an old house versus if you're owning a new house, your heating cost could be 1/10 in the old house. So people also want to control their destiny. They want to feel like a part of the ownership of something by wanting to to purchase a house or a flat or something that they call their own, where you could do it up the way you want, not to the mercy of a certain landlord. Lastly, also, it's around the inability to control what happens next when it comes to rent increase. If you own your house, mortgages are probably much predictable, interest rates are predictable, but when you're renting at a tenant, the landlord could up and say, I want to sell my house tomorrow. And we've seen people who are dual income earning homes become homeless, not by virtue of poor management, but by virtue of the decision made by the owner of the house. And so I think today it's an interesting topic for us to want to explore, and see where it leads us as a people, as a nation, and also the dynamics as to how it treads out to the other factors.
Yeah, I think yes, our conversations are ones where it's not black and white. There's gray areas, there's nuances, there's two sides of it. Everybody gets to make up their own mind where they stand with it. But I do think that it's healthy to have conversation that addresses some of the more challenging and difficult aspects that surround it socially. Because what I don't like seeing is what was once a very welcoming country is starting to batten down and be a little bit aggressive towards the squeeze. So it's like a lot of people will say, oh yeah, it's great to have a new Ireland, which is multicultural and diverse. And as soon as you're in a queue with 40, 50 other people to view one house, or 200 other people to view one house, and half of those people seem to have come in from somewhere else.
You turn to them.
Man, I've seen a lot of hatred and nasty comments around that because, I don't even want to use the word Indigenous Irish. Like New Irish is everybody, but historically Indigenous Irish kind of going, well, how come I'm not getting a house because there's a lot of New Irish. And the thing is, on one level, I'm not condoning hatred and sentences that are said towards a different race, which are not okay. But I do understand why the perception is I can't get a house because these families that have moved from abroad are snatching them up.
Well, that notion isn't entirely accurate. So let me start by saying, whether you're Irish, you're German, you're Portuguese, it is your fundamental human right to get shelter, to have a roof over your head. And this, whether you're 10th generation Irish or 2nd generation Pakistani in Ireland, as a human, the right to breathe in oxygen is equal to the right to have a roof over your head.
Sure, agree.
Now, I've set that aside. Where I like to start with David is, it boils down to the basics of demand and supply.
Right.
It is simply because demand has outstripped supply 5-1. And this is the starting point. It is not about who is in contention with you for the few houses that are available. It is the fact that someone else is responsible to forward plan the housing demand.
And 100%. And I think we could, of course, the easy out is to say the government policy has failed us. We are in the situation we're in. We're obviously not in that sphere where we're able to affect our global or national economics or government policies. So we're not really going to move into that. But I think that makes a very, very good point, is that, like, if you think about it, another statistic, we're in full employment. The economy is ticking over splendidly. So it's not like we're in a dire state. We're in full employment. People who won't work majority of the time can get work. The problem is we're in a high inflation, high price rise economy where somebody who's making a solid effort of earning a wage can't afford the extortionate prices
of a house. And as for someone, my background is in urban and city planning, is in population planning and demand. The peculiar challenge about housing is not a problem that strikes you today and you find a solution for it today. It has this nuance of time. Time is a huge factor with housing. It's like before you want to get on the race mark, you should have started the race a day before. And that's the only way to catch up with housing. Unfortunately, we are always going to be playing catch up. I think the housing market says you need to be turning out additional 30,000 units every year. This is additional.
Right.
Additional means you're trying to catch up with the past. But to meet today's demand, it has to be plus population growth, plus expansion cities, plus new immigrant population, plus returning Irish population. When you add all of that on top, it is really an uphill climb for us to get over. Now, if we turn back to what you said, typically, if 3 people are fighting over a resource that is limited, once the resource is determined that it cannot go to all 3, the natural human instinct is for those 3 people to turn on themselves and start blaming themselves for the scarcity. And this is one thing that I think we could do better at stop blaming ourselves, but start asking ourselves, what is the solution and what is the dynamics behind it?
Yeah.
So I think there's also then the cultural elements to this housing demand. And I think we talked about it just before the beginning, where you go and you've seen videos that says, look at the line of people who are queuing up to view a house. Half of them are either not Irish, traditional Irish, or half of them are from the Far East or from Middle East or from Africa. And it seems like, they are taking the houses that we ought to be getting for ourselves as traditional Irish people. But many a times, to stand on that line, you must have a certain income bracket to even think about putting in that application.
Yeah.
Folks who come in to stand on that line from India, Pakistan, Nigeria, Uganda are typically on the higher income scale, who are working in professional white-collar jobs in Ireland, are able to earn enough to attempt to be on that line. But there's another element around it that is a very social, cultural element that I like to talk about if people don't know. When folks from my culture want to acquire a house in Ireland, rarely is it via individual money alone. So if a house is 400 grand and a 10% deposit is 40 grand, while some other cultures you might have to work hard to get that 40 grand, from the culture I come from, it is your 1 grand and 39 grand from other friends and family, no interest required. It is the pulling of resources from the community to help you get 1 above. So I just want to say to folks, when you see that line next time in Ireland and you see people who don't look like you need to challenge yourself to say, what is it that I don't see beyond just the color of the skin of the folks on the line? And understand that sometimes there are cultural benefits that some societies have over another. It is not saying it should be used against another, but understanding the context is powerful.
I mean, even if you look at, same sub bracket, and you look at 2 people growing up in Ireland, one of them comes from a rich family, the other one doesn't.
Yeah.
Of course, from the rich family, the parents give them a handout,
Absolutely.
and they get the house bought.
Absolutely.
While somebody who doesn't have and can't afford that handout from the parents is stuck struggling
Absolutely.
and in a trap because they're paying extortionate rent, finding it very difficult to save. And you know what? I think from a kind of self-reflective character and ethical stance, for me, I never want to paint myself as being the victim, even if somebody else seems to have an easier path to me. It doesn't help my journey to go, well, it's easy for you to say. So I think a lot of us need to snap out of this kind of, and I know it sounds harsh, but it's kind of like, don't play the poverty mentality or the entitled person who's lacking mentality. It's like, we are in a very difficult situation with housing. And it's natural that a certain demographic who have more access, whether it's through networks or family, will get on that ladder easier than those who don't. Like that, but that's a kind of age-long thing that's been around a long time. That's not a new concept in 2025. So there's always people out there who are better off than you, and there's always people out there who are worse off than you. And historically, I mean, I would argue that historically, the less well-off people have never had as high a standard in history compared to generations gone. So somebody on a very poor wage, 50, 60 years ago, man, they didn't have heating. They didn't have a toilet in their house. It was worse.
Yeah, it was
It was.
worse. Yes,
So no matter
yes.
how bad we have it,
Yeah.
if you've got a toilet, you don't need to go outside when,
Yeah, you
it's,
better-
when it's lashing sideways. You have it that bit
Yeah.
better than somebody in a similar situation to you 100 years ago.
So while I would agree with you about not playing the victim, we also have to acknowledge the reality of the difficulties faced by folks today.
Sure.
Acknowledging your reality is not as same as playing the victim, but working to overcome that reality is key. I think I'd like to use my own personal experience as an example. It took me, or my family and I, in and around 5-6 years of living in Ireland to be able to afford to buy a house. So at the time we started thinking about buying a house, I think we were a single income family. My wife had just a basic per hour income, but we understood the price of sacrifice. And that's something that we always have to talk about, the desire to suspend today's benefit for tomorrow's interest. It meant a couple of years of no holidays, a couple of years of cutting away, takeout, eat in, restaurant, a couple of years of reducing the portion size. It didn't mean being a pauper, but a couple of years of being deliberate in what we suffer today to gain tomorrow.
Right.
I understand that this is not something that everyone might want to do, but it's just to say that to get that house in Ireland, you require this drastic measure because the situation is challenging today. So maybe that encouragement is about what sacrifices am I willing to make now for the gains of tomorrow, particularly when it comes to housing. Unfortunately, guys, it doesn't sound like it is getting better. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but it is disheartening to see 40-year-olds income earning, average income of a 40, 50 grand a year income, still under their parents' roof, contributing to the bills of that house, but cannot even make up the saving for the deposit.
Listen, you became the bearer of bad news when you said no takeaway. All right? I just want to say that's for me where you were like, no, don't touch my sacred space.
Home food is still better, guys. Home food is still better. I'll tell you anytime, any day.
No,
You know?
I think that's a really interesting perspective to hold. Defer gratification
yeah.
for the sake of wealth accumulation. And we all know the joke where people are like, well, I stopped having my expensive lattes for 10 years and I still don't have enough money for deposit. Do you know what? That's not entirely true.
Yeah.
Like, you put 7 or 8 euro a day into a good investment fund, let it compound over 10 years with maybe 10, 15% returns. I mean, to give you an example, like, there's stock portfolios that have gone up 80% in the last 2 years. So, like, don't tell me that small amounts of money steadily invested can bring you to a place of great return. And when you are sitting on that return in 5 years, I can't take that away from you. You have that as an advantage over me because you're willing to sacrifice something in the immediate. So, like, guess what? I don't have the flashiest phone. Doesn't bother me, Joseph, because while you're kind of blinging out with your flashy phone, I'm saving on compound interest by just having one that does the job and investing my kind of surplus income.
Absolutely.
And I don't know about you, I often listen to Dave Ramsey. I enjoy his kind of philosophy on wealth creation. It's like we trap ourselves through credit card debt, through repayment systems. It's like you can't accumulate it
if you're doing it.
if it's going out every single angle.
Yes.
So, and I do think and I can probably say this about Irish people. I do think Irish people love their Sky package. They love their latest phone. They love their latest car. Like, I'll sell a car that's perfectly fine to buy one that's better just because the number plate has a different number on it. So, like, we're trapped societally into wasting and squandering hard-earned money and not making it work for us. So it's a lack of financial education on a very primitive level.
I digress a bit. One of the things that I think is absolutely atrocious in Ireland is this concept about the car plate numbers with the year of manufacture. I think that is just a social trap. That's just a social way of pressuring those who matter for those kind of things into the pressure of changing their cars every 2 years. If I had the opportunity, I would advise to change that completely. Comes back to the topic, just circling back into the sacrifices that needs to be made with regards to the housing situation in Ireland. Truth be told, except you're a dual income family of 140 grand a year, which is the 0.001%.
Sure.
If you are not there, then your only route to a house is to make drastic sacrifices.
Right.
The question though is, are people willing?
Right.
And we talked about the cultural differences, and I like to also share this on the podcast. Again, not passing any judgment, just sharing things from my point of view,
Yeah.
because not everything is black and white. If you take an Irish family and you take a standard Nigerian family in Ireland, right? An Irish family, you've grown up every year wanting to go on a summer holiday. Because by all means, you need the vitamins, you need the sea, you need the sunshine, and you've always done 2 or 3 holidays a year. Nothing expensive to Spain or to Portugal. That would cost you, depending on family size, between 6 to 7 grand a year, the cheapest.
And you throw it on your credit card and you're paying
And
it off all year.
and you're paying interest on it.
At 10%.
At 10%, yeah. Now, if you flip that to a Nigerian family that has come from Africa, maybe I work for Google, I don't know, and it just brings me to Ireland. By coming to Ireland alone, I already am on holiday. So therefore, I wouldn't be in Ireland and want to fly to Spain or Portugal 3 times a year. Not because I don't desire it, but it will rank very low in my list of necessity at the time when I'm thinking of getting a house. So just by natural circumstances, I already have 7 grand over and above a stand. Not because the Irish family is doing anything wrong.
Right.
That has been codified in them. But simply because of that, I now have 7 grand head start to that Irish family. Now, when that Irish family wants to buy a house, these are the things that typically you should sit with your better half or your family and say, can we do without this? Now, there are mental price to pay, you know, with the winter, the cold days, and suicide rates are higher during winter months. I get that, and that's very valid. No one is downplaying that. However, I just need that you understand that the person you are in the race with has that advantage over you, as we said, and you need to close the gap of that advantage.
I mean, what I'm hearing you say, and it's opening up new potential avenues for people who are in a kind of downward cycle where they're stuck in high rents and stuff. Like, maybe you like the idea of living in Dublin, but maybe you need to bail and live in like Letterkenny where your rent is 40% for a couple of years. So like there, you know, like there are ways.
Yes.
And I know it's tricky and not everybody can do that, but there are for some people mechanisms where they can set themselves up more for long-term financial growth by just shaving back their current spend.
I give you another example. When we came to Ireland, my beautiful missus wanted us to have an all year round card for Tato Park, aka Emerald Park. And that cost money, right? So we did first year, second year, but then we only went there 2 times or 3 times a year. But when the thought about buying a house came, that was one of the things we shaved out. Another thing we shaved out, we used to live in a house with multiple toilets and bath. You know, kids could go into one, you could go into the other. But the minute a housing project came up, we knew we had to downsize. So we downsized to a house with 1 toilet and 1 bath, knowing it was a temporal pain to take us to where we wanted to go. Timing was right for us. It was before COVID. We started putting the bits and pieces together that enabled us to raise that deposit ahead of a house that we live in now. But we knew we had to step back. And I think the best analogy I want to give is an African analogy. The catapult that we all grew up with. For a catapult to go...
I never grew up with a catapult, by the way.
So,
I just want to throw that out there.
Right. So the slingshot, if you grew up with a slingshot, is a good analogy for what I'm about to say. If you want your slingshot or your catapult to go further, what must you do? You have to pull it further backwards. Sometimes to go forward, you need to go backwards a few steps. Especially in a very competitive market. So it's like revving your engine before you set off. And I think if there's any advice I want to give to anyone struggling with getting into the housing market, for 1 second, forget about who else is in the race. Understand the chessboard, understand who is playing on the board, but your greatest advantage is how far back can you go? How much sacrifice can you go without breaking your back before you launch. And you're correct. It might mean getting on a train. The DART is really good. The trains are good now. Should I go to Dundalk or Newry, small apartment that goes from 2,005 a month rent to 700 quid a month rent without really breaking my back? And does that extra help me buffer ahead of time? The second thing I want to say is it is becoming even more obvious to get into the housing market in Ireland. It has to also consider multiple streams of income. And multiple streams of income means no matter how well the daytime job is paying, a side hustle is an extra into your pocket. It could be a video editor. It could be a proofreader at night, proofreading books. It could be language teaching to Spanish students over the internet where they get to pay you an hour, where you could do it at nighttime for a Brazilian student where it's daytime. But you just have to find creative ways to bring in. And a little here, a little there helps you to build that pot. But the reality is in today's world, one source of income, 9 to 5, except you're in the top 1%, that is already putting you at a disadvantage.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Look, you might be listening and you might be thinking, I don't agree with that, or I don't like that, or I tried that, doesn't work. Totally legitimate and fine. I think, though, it's important, no matter what, to think a little bit outside the box.
Absolutely.
Like, where you can't just kind of sit on your laurels. And I think as well, like, there's an element where you gotta be a bit proactive in terms of your career and stuff. Yeah. If you're making a wage and it's clearly not going to be enough for you to build up a deposit over the next 10 years, you need to look for a better paid job. Yeah. Right? So if you're able to at all, see if you can jump ship into a different sector or a different company. There's good paid jobs out there.
Yeah. And unfortunately, one of the options some people have taken is to emigrate out of Ireland.
Sure.
It's sad, it's heartbreaking, it's separation from the family, but it is a reality that we also need to acknowledge, that the housing crisis in Ireland has forced people to move millions of miles away to societies that are better off for them. It is sad from a family point of view, no one wants that, but before that, as a last resort, pay the price, be closer to family, find creative ways. The Irish society has always been entrepreneurial. I mean, the Guinness Stout is one of the best exports of Ireland. It's an entrepreneurship example around the world. Just keep trying and keep finding. I just pretty much want to encourage everyone out there. Don't imagine that it is out of reach. There's a bit of sunshine around the corner, but it requires us to pay the sacrifice.
If I'm hearing it correctly, Joseph, what you're prescribing here is that somebody takes the brand, the stout brand, develops a new drink called Guinness, and then exports it globally. Is that what you're encouraging me to do?
That's a business plan. That's a good business plan anyway. I think I'm just asking that folks find creative ways around it. Enough of the blaming of the other guy who is just trying to get a roof over his family's head. Yeah. We should be a bit more empathic, particularly those, if you haven't walked in the shoes of a man who's come from 1,000 miles away to come and live in Ireland, who's left comfort and what he's used to be here. Don't pass the judgment. Be a bit more empathic and understand what you're up against.
I think that's really a good sentiment, right? So everything's up for debate and discussion.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm seeing, what I don't like about what I'm seeing is racism creeping into Irish society where it really has no place. And that's not an area where we're going to discuss whether it's should or shouldn't be. It should not be a part. And don't turn it into that.
Don't.
It's not about that. It's fundamentally government policy failing us for decades. Don't turn around to somebody who's trying to make a life in Ireland as a part of New Ireland and make it about a racism appeal. It's not. It shouldn't. Your frustration shouldn't be externalized at somebody else, especially somebody who doesn't deserve it based on their skin color.
I agree. And my opinion, I wouldn't speak to the Irish audience that because Dave has done that. I would rather want to speak to the audience of those migrants who have come from a million miles away. My encouragement is keep your head up, keep being good, keep adding value to the society wherever you find yourself. Your good will pay you. The tears you cried due to the nuance or due to the misbehavior of one Irish man shouldn't define your future. Those tears should be enriched water to water the plant of your of your motivation to keep going. The world is full of the good, the bad, the ugly. Keep your head up. Be a part of the society. Add as much as you can. And the future will have your name in its history book as a plus addition to the Irish society. Just stay away from the distractions.
Incidentally, in terms of thinking outside the box, a guy that I recently got to know lives in a caravan.
Yeah.
He happens to be one of the happiest looking people I've ever met. Right? So, like, look.
Did you meet him during the winter, though?
Well, look, I mean, the heater heats a camper same way he heats a house.
Yeah.
Right? I think, I'm not saying we should all just go mobile home. I actually lived a couple of years in a mobile home. Let me tell you something. I could see my breath at night. I woke up cold. I went to bed cold. I didn't know I was cold while I was sleeping because I was asleep.
Yeah.
That was my saving grace. So look, I've been there. I've done that for Irish winters, hard Irish winters, where water rolls down your single glazed glass and then onto the wall and then onto the bed sheet. Man,
it is tough days. Yeah.
So I'm not telling everyone to move into caravans, but I think there's probably clever ways of tackling it for some people.
Yeah.
Don't. And here's the thing, because here's another crutch of Irish people.
Yeah.
We don't think that the money we're repaying is real. We think that it's just like, I go to the bank and it's like, how much will you lend me?
Yeah.
And if you lend me 400k, I'm buying a house for 400k. If you lend me 2 million, I'm buying a house for 2 million. And it's like, I don't care how much I actually have to repay. I just want the maximum. I want the biggest house. And I think we actually need to learn, a lot of people need to learn to keep your ratio between what you're repaying and your income healthy. Because I see a lot of people who are so burdened by their repayments that they can't afford the holiday.
Yes.
Or they can't afford to just spend a little, and it becomes a real squeeze, and it's for life. It's for 30, 40 years, and you're also calculating that your wage won't ever decrease, and then you lose your job, and it's all catastrophic. So I would kind of encourage us as a nation to be a little bit reflective of, like, in the midst of this crisis, like, let's not max out what we can live in. Let's live in something that is easy to repay, because that's what adds quality of life. It's not the massive house with 10 bedrooms.
I think you make a good point. There's a bit of financial literacy and financial education required around the decision making for a house. Absolutely. You don't want to get into a house where you're spending 80% of your mortgage, of your income, repaying your mortgage. That's as bad as renting above your means. And it is, seek advice, speak to experts around how that ratio works. I always believe in the standard simple inflow versus outflow. What can we afford? What is the amount of buffer? They used to say buffer for 3 months or 6 months. If something goes south, live content. There is always that argument that when you are young, buy bigger, so that when you want to resell, you're having a bit of return on your investment. But it requires a bit of financial education, I will agree.
Another thing that I think I want to throw out there as we kind of draw to a close, and that is that, I bought a house. I bought our first house back in 2015, 16.
Yeah.
And it was a small house. It was a cheap house or inexpensive house, and I was tipping away, paying off the mortgage month by month. And I didn't think I was making any progress. But then after a couple of years, when I look back at the statements, I realized, actually, this extra couple of grand I had, which I pumped into the mortgage and dropped all of that kind of brought me to a very good financial place. The value of the property increased. I'd paid off a substantial sum of it, and because I didn't max out my borrowing, and over a couple of years, those small little steps lead to good capital position.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes we don't think of how time influences our financial well-being, where we just think, well, I'll be renting forever or I'll be saving forever and it won't lead to anything. It's like, you'd be amazed what a couple of years does.
The power of compound.
The power of compound and power of time. Because you're consistently putting that monthly figure in. You don't really see it. It becomes just a kind of like secondary thing, a side thing. But actually the whole time you're chipping away at your debt.
That's true.
So think of it longer term. Don't panic in the moment. I don't think houses can get any more expensive than they are because they're already out of reach for so many people. I might be wrong on that. So like you're not going to miss the opportunity by not buying this year or next year.
Yeah.
It's like, as you said, pull back, step back, let time work.
Give yourself mileage,
You know, start getting those healthy saving routines in. And in 2-3 years' time, you might be in a place where you're able to make maneuvers that you can't make now.
Absolutely. There is one more element I'd like to add. And as much as we encourage the people to do more for themselves, as much as we encourage people to make sacrifices, there is also responsibility on our government and our leaders. And I don't know who is going to be listening to this podcast, but I'd like to speak to everyone who is in a place of authority and a place of power and influence in Ireland. You are failing the Irish people when it comes to housing. And when I mean the Irish people, I mean everyone who breathes oxygen on the island of Ireland. You are failing the people. Leaders, you could do better. You should do better. The responsibility is yours. In your grave, you will be called to account for everyone who is out on the road, sleepless, worry about where to get the next shelter over their head. Leaders, regardless of political party allegiances, we are holding you to account. We are calling you to do better for people. Because when you do, then you will dial down the rhetoric around the homeless. When you provide the housing for everyone, then that's one topic off the table that we don't need to accuse ourselves for.
Sure.
We are accusing ourselves, we are pointing fingers. Racism is brewing simply because there's not enough available for all. And that's the government's responsibility.
Yeah.
So you want to deal with the riot, you want to deal with the racism in the land, do your job.
Yeah, you were elected to serve the people.
Yeah.
The people need beds and accommodation.
Yeah.
And we do need radical rethink
Absolutely.
to fix what is currently a crisis for many, many people.
Yeah.
There's got to be real things done to see a bettering of the situation for many.
Yeah.
Because we only get one life.
Yes. Yes.
And that quality of life is important. And it must be so hard, like if you're like a professional in your 40s, 50s, and you're living with your parents because you simply can't afford to pay rent or a mortgage. That is demoralizing.
It is.
And it shouldn't be the case.
There's hope. There's hope, guys.
There is hope.
Yeah.
Stay strong.
Thank you, guys. We will be back on the next episode. His name is Dave. My name is Joseph. It's been The Definition. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you next time.